This bustier here has not been ironed, no padding of any sort, so it looks rough. And this is exactly what we're going to be learning in this class. Okay, so I have my paper here. I'm not going to be folding it, we're going to draft the pattern first. So from the shoulder line, I'm going to mark to waistline, and from the shoulder line, I'll mark my under bust, and then from the shoulder line, I'm going to mark my bust line. Okay, so I will repeat the same thing in order to mark it across or to square it across. We're using a small measurement because it's a miniature dress form. Okay, this is just for illustration purpose, but if you put what you're going to learn here into your own measurement, you're going to get it. From the shoulder also, I'm going to mark my armhole depth. For a normal person, I'm going to come up by 1.5 inches from the bust line to get my armhole depth, or divide my bust by 6 plus 1.5. So I'm going to mark my neck depth of 1.2 inches, and then I'll mark my neck width of 1.5 inches. Like I said, this is a miniature, and I'll come down by half an inch. For a normal person, come down by 1.5 inch, and neck width is 3 by 3 inches. I hope this makes sense to you. 3 by 3 inches for a normal human being. Like I said, this is a miniature for illustration purpose. Okay, so we're getting our basic measurements. And then the next thing is to get our bust span, which is the nipple to nipple measurements divided by 2. Okay, I'll mark it from the center front to um the bust on the bust line and the waistline, and rule it straight like this. So I'm trying to identify the lines, the bust, the under bust, and the waistline. Then we have the armhole. So to tighten the under bust, which is where the main tightening is, I'll mark 1.5 inches for a normal person, and then I'll mark 0.7 inches this way for a grown person with bust of 38 inches. Okay, so that's about 2.2 inches, and that's perfect. So I'll connect it this way. You can see the way I placed my curve. I'll place it this way, and then I'm going to bring it down on a straight line like this. Okay, I'll bring it down this way. So we're done tightening the under bust. Now is to divide our bust circumference by 4. We also divide our under bust circumference by 4, and then add whatever it is that we took out on the dart intake, and we're going to add it back so we don't run shortage. The same thing applies to the waistline. Divide by 4, mark, then add whatever intake you took at the darts and add it back. Now you notice that the shape of the waist and the under bust are not on the same line. This can happen to anyone. It does happen to me and my clients sometimes. It is okay. Once you hold the dart, it's going to fit you properly. Okay, so we don't want to have shortage. Now we're going to get our bust dart. That is the difference between the back length and the front length we are using to mark as the bust dart. So bring down the armhole line like so, and then divide the armhole depth into 2 to deepen the armhole by half an inch or 0.75 for a normal person. Okay, and then we'll connect it towards the bust divide by 4. We're marking the same thing on the armhole line. Okay, so connect it that way. Now this is what we have. We're going to find the midpoint of the shoulder. Once we find the midpoint of the shoulder, we're connecting it this way. This is to enable us tighten our upper bust. We tighten our upper bust based on where we want the yoke to stop. Okay, where we want the neckline to be. So we'll tighten it. You can do half inch on both sides. It will not be so tight. You can do 0.75 on both sides, which is okay. If you need it more tightened, like you're doing a normal bustier without a yoke, you can do 1 inch on both sides and it will hold it very well. Okay, so whichever design you want to do, 0.75 on both sides is okay for bust of 38 inches. All right, make sure that they are on the same line. If not, arrange it properly. All right, so you also need to, okay, connect it to the armhole line. Now you can decide to keep it on a straight line, depends on what you want. On this armhole area, you can decide to keep it on a straight line or decide to connect it this way. Whichever way it's going to give you a shape, it's you to determine the type of shape that you want, but this is okay. So for the yoke, I'll connect this way, I'll connect this way. This makes a perfect yoke, right? It makes a perfect yoke, and I'll show you how because I've tried it on myself several times and it came out so beautiful. Okay, now then what I usually do is to measure my across chest. So when I measure my across chest, leaving the dart intake, I'll be able to determine if I'm going to extend the measurement, if the what the intake of the data I've taken is going to affect my measurements or where the sleeve is going to pass from. If it becomes shorter, then I'll add something to the armhole. If it's okay, I'll just leave it the way it is. Okay, so everyone's measurement is different, like from 12, 13, 14, it depends on the shape of the individual. Now we're going over to draft the back pattern or mark from shoulder to our waistline. Remember to take your accurate measurements. Okay. Now, if you do not know how to take accurate measurements, I have a class that is coming up on how to, in fact, it's for actual beginners and those who have little knowledge. We're going to be taking accurate measurements, drafting a pattern, contouring, and so much more. All right, this is just the back basic measurements that we're taking. And the shoulder line, we're going to drop it down by 3 lines, okay, so that it becomes a bit longer than the front part. So our waistline and our armhole line, the bust line is not that necessary because the armhole line, the if what is it called again, the bust divided by 4, we're going to mark it there. Now at the waistline, I went in by 0.75 on actual measurements so that the zipper does not bulge. Okay, so from that 0.75, I'll mark my waist divided by 4 and add 1 inch for that intake. At the armhole line also, I'm coming from where the line cuts across and divide my bust into 4, right? And then my that intake, I'm using my that line, I'm using the bust span divide by 2. And that is what I marked from the actual paper, the actual edge of the paper. That is where I marked it from. Okay, so I'll take half an inch on both sides and mark, half an inch on both sides and mark. I'm saying this way because I assume we're using actual measurements. All right, so I'll connect the 2 lines together like so. And then for the armhole depth, I'm going to bring it down this way. The markings was just so it could be on a straight line, and I will deepen the armhole line by 0.25. So I'm going to be tightening my back armhole by zero point 0.5 if we're using our actual measurements, and I'm connecting it down to my bust line or the armhole line divided by 4, which is also using the bust circumference divided by 4. Now to tighten the upper part also, I'm going to divide the armhole, the shoulder line into two, and I'll mark where I want the height of the yoke to stop at the back. Now it's not necessary that the front and back yoke line will start on the same line, okay? So you can actually determine where you want this to be. And I'll tighten it by 0.25 on both sides of the line that I have marked. Now to connect this line, you can decide to go the way I'm going and you can decide to take it straight, like I also mentioned at the front, right? It depends on the shape that you want. You see this in some designs and you also do see the straight line in other designs. So it depends on how you want it. Two of them must not look alike. You can decide to take them differently, you can decide to take them the same pattern and all. Okay, so this is what we're going to be having. I want to just use the marker to highlight this part more. I used only the pencil to highlight it. Okay, so this is what we have, and we're going to cut it out. Just cut following the markings that you have made. I have to make it faster so that we can actually move on a very high speed while still understanding what we're doing here. So after cutting, this is the what we have, and we're going to use this pieces to cut on our main fabric. Okay, but the yoke I'm going to be adjusting it. The front yoke I'm going to be adjusting it a bit so that after sewing it relaxes well on us. Okay, so this is what I'm going to be doing. I'll open it up a bit at the lower part, right? And then I'll insert paper. This is it. Okay. Now you can also decide not to open it or you decide to close it, whichever one you want to do. I will just place the paper underneath and align it more. Okay, instead of it to be too deep, I'll just align it, mark it in such a way that it blends well instead of being very deep. I hope you can see what I am doing. I'm just using the masking tape or the solo tape to gum it together. And you can see that I opened it a bit and you see the paper that I added underneath and you see where I cut placed my mark, okay, just so it blends so well. We don't want to have it looking so sharp. If you're using this method, this is just what you are to do. Okay, remember I said take your cross chest measurement so that you will be able to determine if you need to cut or add or leave it the way it is. You can see how it is now. I opened the beads, then added paper and blend it so well so that the ones that we've cut out will fit in so well without looking too pointy. This is what I usually do on my own dress. So I'll just cut and join them together, nothing serious. We'll use this cut and join them together, nothing serious. Okay, if you're looking to make a bustier, this is it. So I just cut and joined the pieces together, join the pieces together, everything joined together, no ironing, nothing, just to show us. Now you can see that I did not start sewing the yoke from the tip of the yoke. I moved in and I gave it a notch, okay, and then put it together and start sewing. And because I blended the yoke part, it is not too deep or too yeah, too deep like that. This is how it is. I've not even ironed it because this is just for tutorial purpose. I'll just wear it on the mannequin and we'll see how it is with the yoke. Okay, you can see how it is. So beautiful. Now imagine doing this on your main dress and you'll see how beautiful it will come out. This is the back. You can see how it is, right? Like I was saying, you can decide to take it straight on the armhole or just curve it the way I did. Whichever pattern you choose to use, it is fine. Okay, so tell me what if you got value from this. Tell me how you feel about it. And thank you for watching to this extent. Please subscribe and I'll see you in the next video.